we are today at Hampton Court Palace to take a look at how Queen Anne Boleyn would have got dressed for her day. I'm Hilary.
And I'm Alice, and we are both historical interpreters.
So here we are in the Great Watching Chamber, which is a room that we know Anne would have spent time in while she was at court. Are you excited?
I'm very excited, Hilary, yes.
You're already in the first layer, which is the linen shift. So am I right in thinking that's the only layer that would get regularly washed? And Anne was wealthy enough so she could afford to change as much as she wanted to, maybe even more than once a day?
Absolutely, yes. You could jazz it up a little bit, so you'll see I've got a bit of black work embroidery on my cuffs and collar here.
And you're wearing stockings and shoes.
Shoes are a little bit underwhelming. They're a little bit like slippers, so they're flat-soled. The wide toe was very fashionable.
So next we have the bum pad, which ties on round the waist and holds up the weight of the skirt. The bum pad is going straight on because there are no corsets, there are no stays, no bras, no other underwear in this period.
Absolutely, so all of the structuring is going to be built into the clothes, as we'll see in just a minute. With the bum pad, as with what I'm already wearing at the moment, I can put all of these layers on myself.
Next, we're going to put on the first petticoat. This one is made of linen. Shall I put that over your head? So I'm just going to tie it at the back here. The petticoats could have been made of other materials. They could have been made of silk, and also to keep her warm, and might have had a woolen petticoat or a quilted petticoat. So this is the next layer that we're going to put on. This is called a kirtle. And kirtles had been around in England since medieval times, but in this period they start to look a little bit different. So you will see that they're quite stiff down the front. They are stiffened with buckram or with reeds to hold or give support to the bust area, also to give this really fashionable flat-fronted look to the whole outfit. So I see that this kirtle, it does up at the front.
Yes, so the kirtles that we historical interpreters tend to wear today do up at the front or the sides for ease. But of course, Hilary, this wouldn't have been the least bit necessary for a queen like Anne.
So the kirtle, being this particular shape, would have been worn by all women, probably, high status, low status, but there probably would have been some differences in the colour or the materials?
Absolutely, yes. The kirtle like this would have been worn by working women as well, but they wouldn't put a gown on top. So you could attach sleeves at the shoulders with points, but then you'd be ready to go. The colours and the materials would be different, less luxurious. Anne is wearing this beautiful red wine silk today. Red was a really popular colour in the Tudor period because people believed it had talismanic properties. So they believed that it warded off infection and it would keep the wearer in good health.
So this is the next piece that we're going to put on. This is called a forepart.
So that's just going to tie around my waist here. And one thing I really love about foreparts, and indeed four sleeves, which we're going to add to the outfit in a moment, is that it allows one gown to become many different gowns. So by changing the forepart and the four sleeves, you can change your outfit, but still keep the same gown on. So the forepart has just been pinned to the kirtle on either side to hold it in place.
Next is the piece we've all been waiting for. This is the gown, and this is in the French style. Anne was very known for being fond of the French fashions, so that's what we're going to dress her in today. And it goes on sort of like a modern-day dressing gown. So the gown, as you can see, is front lacing. So I'm just going to do that now, make it nice and secure. So this flap here is called a placket or a placard. And the idea is that it smooths out the front even more to give the rigid, fashionable shape. This one is stitched in on this side, but it could be a separate piece and be pinned both sides.
Pins were instrumental in closing clothes for most of history, including this period, and there are household inventories which list thousands of pins being used here in the Tudor times.
So this is the iconic French gown. It looks really amazing.
You'll know it's a French gown by the trained skirt, the close-fitting bodice and the upturned sleeves. And this is the most formal and the most extravagant style of court dress from the period.
And is there a reason that Anne would have chosen a black gown?
Black material was available to a range of people in society, but the quality of the colour would vary depending on the status of the wearer. So to get a really good, rich, deep black like this one, it required specialist skills and techniques and lots of different dye layers. So you'd have to dye it again and again, which made it very expensive. You could get cheaper blacks, they would fade to brown as they wore, and expensive blacks like this one would reveal blue tones as you wore them. So of course we don't know for sure, but we think that Anne probably would have worn a gown resembling this one. We have a shopping list for herself and her daughter Elizabeth in 1536, which lists 2 gowns of black velvet and 1 of black damask. So it definitely would have been a material that she liked to wear.
So now we're going to put on these sleeves. They are called foresleeves. It makes it look like there are many layers to this costume, which makes the person wearing it look more wealthy. So the sleeves just go over the shift like this. Maybe the cuff would be seen, be pulled through, and they will tie on here, or they could be pinned as well. You look incredible, looks amazing. It does look complete, but is it complete?
Not quite, Hilary, because to take this French gown up to the next level, we are going to add accessories.
Right, so this is the girdle, which is a belt, and a lady could hang a bag from it.
Absolutely, Hilary. So you could attach a girdle book, which, as the name suggests, is a little book that you could attach to your girdle. You might also have a pomander, so a little pouch of herbs or an orage filled with herbs, and that would perfume you as you walked, letting off a lovely scent.
So I'm just tying it at the front here, and I'm going to do a bow, but I'll do it the Tudor style, which is just with the loop on one side. This is the headwear that we're going to use today, and anyone that's seen a portrait of Anne Boleyn will recognise this. This is called a French hood, and it is the style of headwear that Anne preferred.
Anne served in the households of Mary Tudor, who was Queen of France very briefly, and then her successor, Queen Claude of France. So when Anne returned to England in 1522, she was said to have the manners, the style, the etiquette of the French court, and was very much admired for it. So it gave her a sort of edge and made her stand out from the other ladies.
It looks really beautiful. What makes it different from other headwear of the time?
Early styles of the French hood fitted the head quite closely, and they later developed a tilt at the rear, which would show off the luxurious fabrics and the jewels. It would also reveal more of your hair, and Anne was said to be very proud of her hair. Lots of people remarked on it. We know that she wore it down on several important occasions in her life, including her coronation, her marriage to King Henry VIII, and when she became Marchioness of Pembroke in 1532.
And when we look at portraits of Catherine of Aragon, she looks so different from Anne Boleyn. She's got that English gable hood, as well as in differences in the rest of her clothes.
And of course, queens would use clothing to create and convey an image. So you could use your clothing to suggest friendship or an alliance, to assert your lineage and your status. You could use clothes to snub or offend somebody. And I think Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn definitely used clothes in this way. And by looking at the clothing that was given by King Henry VIII, or the materials, or indeed taken away, definitely sort of helps us to identify the changing power of these two incredible women.
Now we're going to top you off with jewellery. Jewellery, of course, was iconic for Anne's image. And I've got here the famous bee necklace. Now, we don't know that Anne ever wore this, but we do see it in the portraiture of her.
Absolutely, Hilary. So the only contemporary image that we have of Anne is a portrait medal from 1534. But the bee necklace has become synonymous with her image. I think it suggests a sort of pride in her family's rise, and maybe suggests how she used her prominence to promote her family.
Now you are finished. You are ready. You look fantastic as Queen Anne Boleyn. So how do you feel?
Thank you, Hilary. I feel fantastic. Anne Boleyn, of course, would have been here at Hampton Court Palace, in the Great Watching Chamber, the Great Hall, the royal apartments, and she would have had a real influence over these spaces. So it helps to give me an insight into what it would have been like to be Queen Anne Boleyn here at Hampton Court Palace, and I feel super lucky.